Whenever a passenger train or a big jet crashes, the sheer size of the disaster often makes it hard to comprehend. But every big disaster is in fact a number of individual tragedies, and often individual acts of heroism. Kia ora, I'm Philip Alpers, and tonight on Heroes, the biggest railway crash in New Zealand history.
Last night, a most grievous railway accident took place at Tangiwai.
The Tangiwai disaster and the bravery of one man, Cyril Ellis. Tangiwai is a tiny dot on the map near Mt Ruapehu in the central North Island. The crash happened there on Christmas Eve, 1953, and it claimed the lives of 151 people. There were many heroes on that night, but one man stood out. We've used actors to recreate the story of Cyril Ellis. 40 years ago to the month, this country had an awful lot to celebrate. There was the coronation of a new queen. And in the same week, a New Zealander crowned the world's highest peak. Ed Hillary had become the little colony's biggest ever hero. Then in sailed a royal tour. The new Queen and Prince Philip arrived for Christmas.
So the Queen comes to New Zealand. 12,000 miles from the motherland, she is home among her people.
And while the royals toured here, the All Blacks were touring Britain and France.
The haka over, the All Blacks kicked off and the two teams got down to work.
With players like Bob Scott and Tiny White, the 1953 All Blacks were a great side. But the week before Christmas, they lost this match against Wales. Back home in Taihape, it was Christmas Eve. The postman was bringing the last of the Christmas mail. Cyril Ellis had been delivering the mail in this railway town for 6 years now. He was 27 years old, a married man, a keen hunter and a fisherman, and a fast winger for his Taihape rugby team. Cyril was born and raised under the shadow of Mt Ruapehu. His parents' home was Neoakune in Rangatawa, a tiny village close to the volcano.
G'day, young Joe. How are you, mate?
Good.
Good on you. Old Bob Scott could take a couple of lessons off you after that walloping we got the other day, eh? From the Welsh.
After his rounds, Cyril planned to drive to Rangatawa for Christmas Eve with his folks.
Yep.
His wife, Patricia, and his mother-in-law would travel with him.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
South of Taihape, on the main trunk line, the Limited Express was steaming northwards. The Limited left Wellington at 3 p.m. to arrive in Auckland early the next morning on Christmas Day. On board were 285 passengers, mainly holidaymakers like the Holmans. Delia and John were newlyweds. They'd come out from England that April, and this was their first trip to Auckland. In the same carriage was Jenny Smith. Jenny was 16, and today's trip was a big event. This was her first long train journey, and she was about to be reunited with her best friend. Dinah Sutherland joined the Limited at Palmerston North. She and Jenny had been at boarding school together. Now, with School C behind them, the pair were off to see the Queen in Auckland, then on to the Coromandel for a camping holiday with Jenny's parents.
About 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh, well, it's not
Their journey would soon take them past the flanks of Mt Ruapehu near Cyril's town, Taihape.
Yeah, love. Got the beer. Got the suitcases. Even got the mother-in-law.
At about 9 that evening, Cyril Ellis was leaving Taihape with his wife and mother-in-law.
Okay, Ma?
It's fine.
Righto, girls. We're off, eh?
It was 60 kilometres to his parents' home, a trip Cyril had made many times. As it happened, Cyril knew the crew on tonight's express. The engine driver was Charles Parker. He and his fireman, Lance Redmond, both lived in Taihape. This crew was rostered to drive the engine north to Pokaka, change to a southbound train, then return home to Taihape for Christmas morning. But that night, what the locomotive crew couldn't know was that high on Ruapehu, the wall of Crater Lake had burst. Hundreds of thousands of tons of water, ice, mud and boulders were spewing down the mountain. Channeled down a single riverbed, the main torrent was headed for the railway bridge at Tangiwai. The limited express and the wall of water would reach that spot at much the same time. In first class, Delia and John Holman. Originally, they'd booked seats closer to the engine, but a friend talked them into upgrading their tickets. Now the newlyweds were 6 carriages back in Car Z. The 2 schoolgirls, Dinah and Jenny, had also been booked near the front of the train until at the last minute their parents changed their tickets to first class.
Oh, hello. Did you girls come home?
Yes, we are. It's our first trip. Very excited.
Their guard was William Ingalls. In a few days, Bill was to join the royal train, touring the country with the Queen and Prince. He promised to look after the 2 teenagers.
Thank you very much.
Back in half an hour, call the army, girls.
About 20 minutes short of his parents' place in Rangatawa, Cyril Ellis made a comfort stop. It was a calm summer's night. There was no sign of rain or stormy weather. Yet somewhere in the dark, Cyril heard a sound like thunder. He remembers it getting louder, but he couldn't figure out what was making the noise. No alarms when a thundering wall of water and debris from Mt Ruapehu swept away the central supports of the railway bridge at Tangiwai. The Wellington to Auckland express train, with more than 250 people aboard, was steaming towards catastrophe.
Forward to Rangatown now, girls. About 10:30, eh? Forward to that Christmas dinner.
To get to Rangatawa, Cyril Ellis had to cross the river at Tangiwai. But when he reached the spot, the road bridge had disappeared.
Sorry, did you know Christmas in Rangatown? Pass with that torch, Trish.
The Limited had made its last stop at Waiouru. Now the train was on a downhill run, steaming towards the railway bridge at Tangiwai on time at 10:20 p.m. Another train, a southbound freight, was running late that night. It had stopped on a siding to allow the passenger train a clear run. Had the goods train been on time, it would have reached the bridge at Tangiwai ahead of the Limited Express. There wasn't any time to go for help. If the 460-ton train took that bridge, it would surely collapse. Cyril's only thought now was to warn the crew.
Stop! Stop! Stop the train!
Holy hell, the bridge is gone!
The train skidded for 200 metres, but couldn't stop before the bridge. As Cyril watched, the engine dragged the first 5 carriages into the flood. The 6th carriage, Car Z, was left teetering on the edge.
Something down there.
Says Cyril. I don't know. Look, over there.
Tomorrow, it managed to stop the train in time to save the passengers in the rear carriages. But Car Z was still teetering on the brink, about to follow the others into the torrent below.
Half your train's in the river! You're joking! I'm not. There's people to help. Come on!
Cyril had saved the passengers in the last 4 carriages. There was nothing he or anyone could do for the scores who'd gone before them. But he could help the 22 passengers in Car Z who still had no idea of the danger they were in. Only these 2 could see that Car Z was on the edge.
Merry Christmas, mate! Listen to me! Listen! Everybody move towards the back! Half the train is in the river. Everybody get up the back! Guard, help me get these people out here!
For his pains, Cyril Ellis was now trapped in the bobbing carriage with the people he'd tried to save. The water around them rose, then fell again. The flood had carried Car Z and its passengers 60 metres downstream before the carriage ground to a halt on a sandbank.
We're going to get him out of here!
Help me get my wife out!
Your wife's getting out. You're getting out. We're all getting out of here.
Thanks. John Holman.
Cyril Ellis, mate. Now let's get out of here.
Thanks.
Hold on to this for me, love.
He could have stayed safely outside. Instead, Cyril returned to the half-submerged carriage as it swayed in the current.
Wait here, John. Help me get these girls out. Come on, girls, one at a time, please. Come on, I can get you out one at a time. Listen, come with me. I'll come back to you.
John Holman stayed with Cyril. For nearly an hour, the two men worked to get everyone out of KZ.
Yep.
Come on, love.
We're safe. We're safe.
Seems right.
Up there, lass.
Come on, up we go. You all right? We'll be safe there, love. Help will be on its way.
Next one.
Lucky last, John.
See you on top, mate.
Right.
Where you going?
Here with the torch, John.
They missed only one, a young girl they couldn't see, drowned under a seat. The postman from Taihape was last to leave. John Holman and Cyril Ellis had rescued 21 passengers from KZ.
I'm in big trouble now, John.
Why's that?
I'm on this train without a ticket, mate.
By now, soldiers and civilians from Waiouru and Karioi had arrived to help. Through the night, they comforted survivors and searched for the dead. It was midnight before Cyril was reunited with his wife and mother-in-law. They never did make it to Rangatawa for Christmas.
Let's go home.
In the early hours of December the 25th, 1953, Cyril turned his truck around and headed slowly back to Taihape. A few hours later, a newsreel camera captured this scene. By then, KZ was high and dry on the riverbed. The flood claimed the lives of 151 men, women and children, including the driver, Charles Parker, and his fireman, Lance Redman. Later that day, the Queen broadcast her Christmas message to the Commonwealth from Government House in Auckland.
Last night, a most grievous railway accident took place at Tangiwai. I know that there is no one in New Zealand, and indeed throughout the Commonwealth, who will not join with my husband and me in sending to those who mourn a message of sympathy in their loss.
But amidst the grief, in the days following the Tangiwai disaster, it became known that one man, a postman from Taihape, had played a truly heroic part. Today, Cyril Ellis is 66 and living in Wanganui. 40 years on, he remembers that night and the George Medal they gave him for his bravery with mixed feelings.
And I'd never go through it again. I'd run a mile rather than face that. But it happened too quickly for me to grasp the strangeness of it. No, true. They're fools rush in where angels fear their tread. That's all you can explain. Well, I must be a bloody fool, boy.
Jenny Smith and Dinah Sutherland would use other words to describe Cyril Ellis. Today, they still remember him with admiration.
Well, I still think he's just incredible to...
Incredibly brave man.
Have enough courage to get into that.
When he knew what the outcome would have been or could have been. I think he was just meant to be there at the right time.
He must have been.
And if he hadn't been there, we wouldn't be here either.
Probably not.
John Holman also received a George Medal for his part in the rescue. His wife, Delia, survives him.
I think Cyril did very well indeed. I really do. I think he was a very brave man and he deserved his medal. John did too. He could easily have got out and looked after himself, but he didn't. He stopped and helped everybody else. But he was like that. He was a good man to have around in emergency. But Cyril, knowing the danger that he went into, he didn't seem to have any regard for his own safety. He just wanted to get everybody else out. And I think that was wonderful.
Hero is the brand on the seat. Quite by chance, it belongs to Cyril Ellis. But that's not a label he'd easily use himself. Instead, the old postman describes his actions at Tangiwai in these words.
I done a bloody good job, I reckon.
Cyril Ellis, a quiet hero, perhaps typical of the ordinary blokes who in times of crisis become extraordinary heroes. I'm Philip Alpers. Join me next week for more true stories of courageous Kiwis on Heroes.
There's a new officer in town to work on the case, and slowly but surely he peels away the layers of secrecy, protecting 4 men charged with murder. Conspiracy of Silence, the riveting miniseries, concludes tonight on 2. Join the fun of one of New Zealand's best-loved comedies next. It's
1,000 people watched the Swedish-made plane plummet into woods in the